What's up guys, welcome back to Slide. Today we're talking about watermelons. Now, it's a really interesting thing. So when the African Americans were emancipated from slavery, obviously they weren't able to climb up onto the sort of economic ladder so quickly. So they had to start off with the very basic things that they were allowed to do, such as, we spoke about last week how they were able to raise chickens and stuff like that. And this week we're going to talk about watermelon. So watermelon is a sort of crop that was very easy to grow for them, and they were allowed to freely grow it. And so what they did was they used this crop to grow, to sell, to eat, and it was actually one of the earliest forms of their sort of economic growth, their rise to equality, if you will. Now, of course, when white supremacists saw that, they didn't like it, and so they created propaganda through cartoons, through media and stuff like that to depict watermelon as this sort of lazy and negative thing. And actually, watermelon being used as a negative stereotype was something that was seen quite common in places like Italy and the Mediterranean. Yeah, so around Italy and the Mediterranean, Arab countries and stuff like that, watermelon was associated with poverty. So often, if it was written in a lot of literature at the time that if you were to walk down a sort of a poorer end of a city, you'd often see the streets littered with watermelon rinds. So that was a common thing that everyone sort of knew about anyway. And so what they did was they took that stereotype and applied it to black people, where it was just clearly not the same thing, because black people were using it as a way to sort of grow in their power and to actually become equal. And obviously the white supremacists will do anything they can to limit that. And so unfortunately these days, watermelon has been used as a negative stereotype. Even to this day, even politicians have been caught out for using these kind of phrases. And it really is negative. And I think if you look at African American history, you'll see that it's actually a fruit that represents power. It's the fruit of freedom, if you will. And so today we're going to do two very simple recipes. One is a sort of modern kind of take on a watermelon salad. So it's just watermelon, feta and mint. So we're just going to be using some watermelon, bunch of mint, and some feta. And you can sort of do what you want with this. Watermelon isn't just something that can be eaten on its own, even though it's amazing. But we're just going to make a really simple salad out of it. And it's going to be really refreshing for any kind of summer barbecues that you've got and stuff like that. And also to keep it traditional, I've got a recipe which I took from Jessica B. Harris's book, High on the Hog. It's a really interesting one because I didn't even know it existed. It really shows the sort of traditional techniques which were used by African Americans, and also promotes zero waste. So often when you cut a watermelon, you have all the rind that you just throw away. And so this recipe, we're actually going to be using the entire watermelon, barring the outer skin. And hopefully, if it tastes good, then it's a recipe that will be able to utilize the whole watermelon. So let's do this. Okay, so very simply with this, we're going to start off in a way that's going to allow us to actually, one second, I'm going to have to tilt this camera up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, it's alright. Alright, cool. So we're just going to take off both ends. Actually, wait, to start off with, to tell if a watermelon is actually ripe or not, you want to look for sort of these yellow spots. That shows that it's sort of ripened a bit. You don't want a perfectly green watermelon. It's just not going to be, right. Also, another thing which I like to do is just give it a slap in it. So when you slap it, it should have a hollow kind of, your hand should ring through it, if that makes sense. You'll be able to tell. If you hit it and it's like a rock, it's just like a thud, like how the table is, right? It's just thud and it just thuds and it's not hollow at all. Then obviously, the table's not right because you can't eat wood. But if you slap the watermelon, then it's hollow inside. It means that it's more aerated and stuff like that. Obviously, if it's completely hollow, then it's it would have started rotting and stuff like that. So yeah, just give it a slap and that should be a good indication. We're just going to take off both ends of our watermelon. Don't worry about washing the skin, it's not necessary at all for this, for the rind. But if you're just making the salad, then go ahead and do that. I'm just going to cut the watermelon in half. You can just go ahead, doesn't matter if it's perfect, just make a cut all the way around. So if your knife is big, you can just do it in one. And so now we have both sides. You can see the flesh is very red, and so that's why the tapping method. That's really nice, actually. It really works. And so you can just take it, cut it into sort of wedges. What we're gonna do is just simply one at a time. You're gonna take it, we're gonna cut all the way down. And because it's quite deep, if it's shallow, you can just cut it in one go. With this, I'm gonna cut it in 2 layers. So I'm gonna do sort of one across here and then one at the bottom, and it's gonna give us these kind of watermelon cubes and stuff like that. I'm just gonna get a plate. And so we're just gonna cut all the way down and then use this. 1 second, if I can just pop this in front. You can use this to get 1 layer of cubes off and then a 2nd layer of cubes. And with this one, we're just gonna cut all the way to the bottom, leaving a little bit of the red flesh. You can cut more off if you want, but that red flesh is going to be kind of necessary for the rind. You got a little bit there. You can take a bit more off if you want. Alright, so what we're going to do now is just pick these mint leaves off. I'm not really going to do too much to them. I'm just going to like sort of cut them into like ribbons, if you will. I mean, like I said, I'm just going to sort of bunch it up roughly together. It's fine if some of them remain whole, you know, you just want to get a rough sort of... And when you have it like that, that's it, just really rough, just like that. I'm just going to sprinkle it over. Salad. And then with the feta, I mean, look, 2 ways. I mean, you can either cut them into cubes or crumble it with your hands. For this case, I'm gonna cut them into cubes because I think everything else is quite rough. So I think if you have that contrast of like nice shapes and rough shapes, it makes it a lot nicer than if everything was perfect and cube-like, and you know, it looks like it's been produced out of a factory or something. So I think it's nicer if you kind of have that mixture. Okay. So once you've done that, we can literally put forward. I'm just gonna take this off. You literally put forward this salad. You've got the red, you've got the green, you've got bits of white. It literally takes no time to put together. I mean, I've literally just spent a few minutes putting this together and it looks great. I mean, you've got big chunks, little chunks of watermelon, you've got random pieces of feta dotted around. It's really simple, it's really colourful, it will work. You've got the sweetness of the watermelon, you've got the saltiness of the feta. You can dress it with any dressing that you want, really. I like to leave it on its own. I think there's enough moisture in this to act perfectly fine. And yeah, you know, we can just take a bit. This is good. Try it, it's really nice. So quite simply, we have our watermelon, feta and mint salad. Really simple, perfect for summer. So now that salad's out of the way, you're left with the issue of all the rinds that are left over. I totally missed the bin. This next recipe comes from Jessica B. Harris's book, High on the Hog, A Culinary Journey from Africa to America, I believe it's called. And it's a really good book, everyone should go ahead and read it. She's like a chef but also a historian, and she's looked a lot into African American history. Really fascinating stuff that she's got in those books. A lot of the recipes are really authentic as well. I've changed it slightly just to kind of fit British measurements as well as like my kind of taste as well. I think I've just added like a bit of chili instead of what she did. Hers is more like based on like southern USA kind of tastes. So I've tweaked it slightly, but the main recipe is inspired by her 100%. I'll leave a link to her book in the description. And we're going to take 1 rind for instance, okay? Now there's quite a lot. You want to kind of get as much watermelon, so if you've got any like scraps, just trim them off as best you can. You do want to leave some watermelon behind. I mean, you don't want it to be completely like, you know, rid of the red watermelon part. So I'm just gonna, you know, just scrape a little bit of this off. So you got a lot of the white bit left. You can just go ahead and put these scraps into your bowl with the rest of the watermelon. Absolutely fine, just eat it. And what we're gonna do, take our peeler and peel off this excess, and what you'll find is that the actual rind of the watermelon, similar to how, you know, we use lemon peel and stuff like that, the actual rind of the watermelon is edible, and it's quite cucumber-like. If you look at it, it's fairly soft. It's way more savory, which is obviously why we end up throwing these rinds away. But, oh, it's just a bit tough. There you go. We can actually go ahead and use it. So, I mean, really the only inedible part of this is the skin of the watermelon. And what we're going to do is cut these into cubes. You can cut them to any size you want. Traditionally, I believe they are cut into cubes. Chop it up like that. And right now, at this point, they kind of look like those watermelon sweets that you get. You know, when it's like in these little cubes like that. And so what we're going to do, it's like a sort of 2-day procedure. So what we're going to do overnight is brine them. And then I'll come back tomorrow and we'll sort of take from there. So, in this bowl here, I've got 2 liters of water, along with 200 grams. I think it's 200 grams. Oh, well, if it's not, I'll put down the real measurement in the writing. But yeah, I've just got this brine here, and we're gonna put these watermelon pieces in there just to break it down, tenderize it a bit, brine it. It will give it more flavor as well. And we're gonna leave that overnight, and we're gonna come back tomorrow. Okay, so we're back. It's day 2. We've brined our watermelon. To be honest, I can't see much of a difference that it's done, but what I would have done is sort of tenderize that rind a little bit, breaking it down, making it a bit easier to cook. What we're going to do now is boil this and also make our sort of syrup, which the watermelon is going to sit in, and then we can pack it up and you know, serve it as like a side dish. So let's get right into this. So what we've got now is we've got 2 pots. We've got one pot here which has the watermelon, and that's just cooking down. It needs to boil down for a bit until it's like fork tender. And then in the other pot, let me just switch this one around, we have, in the other pot we've got this dark looking syrup. It's basically made up of balsamic vinegar, apple cider vinegar, some spices, some water, some sugar, brown sugar, white sugar, and yeah, that's it. You can put some chili in there if you want as well. And we're just going to cook that down until it becomes like a syrup. We're going to drain the watermelon and combine everything together. Additionally then what you would do is mix the syrup into the watermelon and cook that down until the watermelon becomes translucent. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. Just pouring that syrup in. And we're just going to cook that watermelon down until it becomes translucent. And yeah, let's see how it goes. Well, our watermelon pickle has finished. I'll be honest, it looks so grim. But I'm going to try it because you know what, this is culture, this is history, and it's important that we try these things. Alright. Let's try it. Look, I'm sure in the south of USA, this thing is fantastic. It's just weird for me, like, it's just too, like, I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of pickles anyway, but do you want to try some? It's not very nice, go on.
No, it's not a piece.
Don't spit it out if you don't like it, just swallow it.
It's not that bad.
It's
like,
not bad, it's alright. It's like I said, it's not bad, it's just not my kind of thing. But you know what, like, if you're the kind of person that likes pickles, then you'll like it. But I don't know why I made that. I don't even like pickles. But like, the only things I like are pickle chilies. But you know what? It's okay. Considering like, you know, it's a good way of using up waste and stuff like that. I'm sure if you like actually chill this down and like use it as a pickle, it worked. So that's been today's. This is probably gonna be a super long video. So that's been today's video. Thanks for watching. Please support black-owned businesses. I'm gonna leave a link in the description below. I hope you learned something about, you know, the history of watermelon and its significance to the African American community. Let's try and rethink these stereotypes and re-educate ourselves. And I will see you next time. Please like, subscribe, follow me on my socials at /_IT, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everything. Bye.